And hello again, dear ones. Rev BRZ over here.
Rev Z right here.
And Rev T, apparently, right here.
And this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. Happens every Tuesday at 2 p.m. The opportunity where Rev Z and I get together and talk about how New Thought philosophy is relevant and effective in today's world. And we're joined today by our dear friend Temple Hayes, who is an amazing woman. And we're going to tell you all about her as we go along today. And you'll learn a little bit more about her and her ministry and how you can stay in touch with Temple. However, we want you to know we've been in the green room for a little while now, kind of hashing out today's show because there's just so much going on. And let's be real, the stories of the day influence how every one of us come to the conversations and the connections that we have. Today's been a very interesting day. We've learned today that Ahmed Aubrey's killers have been sentenced to federal hate crime on charges of a federal hate crime, which ensure they will not see the light of day outside of a prison cell again. We have a story of a 4-year-old getting his hands on a gun in a car and taking a shot at a police officer. We're hearing the winds of war in the Ukraine, and not everything is terrible and gloomy. There is a lot of good stuff going on as well. We've got some social justice happening in the NFL. Sorry.
Brian.
Brian Flores, thank you, Z, has been hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers, whose original owner was Art Rooney, who rewrote the Rooney Rule, this whole thing. There's good stuff happening in the world as well. And so what we want to do today is we want to look at, in the light of all these wild and amazing stories, some we like, some we don't like, some we agree with, some we don't agree with, how is New Thought current, relative, and effective? Z, we're going to kick it to you first and let you get us warmed up.
Well, I think one of the cornerstones for me that matched some of the training I had before I came to New Thought was the idea from an ancient African Kabbalion standpoint that says everything happens in consciousness first. After that, there is that thought, that idea creates a vibration or a correspondence, which creates a polarity, a movement across a span, which at that point, it has a rhythm to it. And by definition of that rhythm, there's a cause and effect, if you will, for lack of a better word. And as a result, we labeled the movement of all that. We often refer to it as a gender or positive or negative pole of energy. Doesn't matter what you call it. It is the movement, rhythmic nature of it. And so when I look at New Thought, that's what brought me here, because it encapsulates all those things. It says, you don't make up stories to make yourself feel good if you stomp your toe. If you stomp your toe, you need to get a Band-Aid, put some ice on it, whatever you need to do. You need to fix it. You don't need to kind of, bless it away, so to speak. You need to deal with it. You can bless it, but you need to deal with it at the same time. And I think right now, New Thought is poised to take that kind of approach to a bigger audience, to a more holistic way of looking at life. And that's our charge, I believe, as leaders and teachers of this teaching. That's what we have to do. And we have the perfect canvas with all the stuff you just talked about to create some very nice artwork. Mm-hmm. Maybe even sell some EFTs in part of it. I don't know.
It's NFT, brother.
NFT. Yes.
Temple.
Well, I was just thinking as Rev Z was talking about, that's fundamental to our teaching is cause and effect. And somewhere along the lines, we started making it shame-based, or I ought to feel guilty because I'm actually in a conversation about what the effects are right now as I look across my land, my world, my planet. And we started, using language like, I don't want to be negative. I know everything's supposed to be look for the good. Well, that somehow we closed off of that reality because there are effects. Myrtle Fillmore had the effect of a family system, of a DNA system, of heredity system called tuberculosis. She was destined to die at 40. She didn't go, oh, I just need to sit around and think about the fun stuff. She went, I see this effect. I see where it's taking me. And I'm going to come back and change the cause so that I can reinvent my life and reinvent my space. And you're so right. You know, both of you, obviously, we're living in a time where suicide is like going to the grocery store. Oh, I think I'll just go out and just end it all, or go get some almond milk instead. You know, depression is at an all-time high, gun violence, all these things are effects. And New Thought is often, you know, missing the mark because we're not addressing the current times of humanity. We're still just repeating the socially acceptable soft kumbaya, you know. We say, let there be peace on earth, let it begin with me, but I'm not going to say anything. I don't
Right.
want to talk because I need to be all soft and all that. Or we have the opposite in New Thought leadership, and that is divine weariness. And that doesn't help any of us. We don't need anyone standing in front of the room and saying the crazy world and we're falling apart and I'm going to give up my pulpit too. That doesn't, that's the extreme of martyrdom. So it's somewhere in that, isn't it? That we are spiritual, sacred warriors, that we are grounded in the truth, but from a mighty and bold place, we address racism, show social injustice, gun violence, and all those things in a way by the cause and the strength being what has been taught to us and lived through us in New Thought.
And you know, real quick, Rob, you brought something up in me. You know, we now live in a culture that's superhero saturated. I mean, we got all kinds of superheroes. Yeah. Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Black Panther. I mean, we got them all coming out of the woodwork. Yeah. And when you said that, the thing that popped into my mind, all of the superheroes that we admire and that we're trying to bring that energy back into the conversation space, if you will, they deal with the good times and the bad times. They don't just show up when something bad.
Right.
When it's good, they show up as well, and they promote that. And when something's bad, they show up as well and handle that. And so if we can begin to pattern ourselves after these superheroes, knowing that life is real, it is an evolving, moving thing, and we have to deal with it in that manner, then we can save the world. Then we can be, you know, the hero if that's what somebody's looking to be. And do it well and within the bounds of humanity and the sanctity of everything that's whole, and that's this whole universe.
Yeah. As you're sharing here today, I'm struck because we didn't go over this in the pregame, folks, in the pre-show interview. So do feel free to chime in the comments if you like. We'll be happy to, if appropriate, we'll be happy to incorporate those. But what I'm feeling is, in many ways, we're talking about, okay, so here's another effect, here's another outpicturing, and that's the Black Lives Matter movement. Mm-hmm. And how many communities and how many people are afraid to stand up and say, wait a minute, Black Lives Matter. And yes, we know that in the grand scheme and in the higher realm, in the absolute, all lives matter. But that's our given. And right now, there has not been enough emphasis placed on the fact that we have marginalized Black lives to such a degree that people believe they don't matter. So we got to balance the scales. Mm-hmm. And we're going to and I think we're going to have to do that in New Thought in a number of places. And it's not that anybody in New Thought is wrong. It's not that anybody in New Thought is, well, it's not that New Thought as a whole is running around shouting all lives matter, and trying to push aside this issue. I think there's that weariness, that a fear of being the first into the pool and saying, I'm going to stand up and be vocal about this. This is something that has to change. the marginalization of Black lives, the ability to get guns in our hands for people that do not have responsible gun ownership skills. These things are places if we don't draw a sign, a line in the sand, I think we risk losing our integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts I wonder, that's just kind of coming through me that I've thought about a number of times is that, many of us came out of religiosity and being rebellious and being hopefully more of an enlightened rebel and saying, this is not the approach I want to take in my life, that I'm worshiping, I'm a sinner, I'm worthless, I'm all this, and God never gives me more than I can handle. So I just keep on, showing up and take, and allowing things to happen. And it's almost like there hasn't been a real integration from religiosity to spirituality, of healing the emotions around that, because in some ways we're still responding as a culture of new thought that very way and calling it something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let me give you this magic cliche. Let me tell you what Michael Beckwith said. Let me tell you what I saw on the Oprah show. Let me tell you that. Let me tell you that. We're still carrying the evangelistic. There's a savior out there somewhere, and it's going to be okay, and let's not even look at it. I know in talking to Michael and with our AG&T meetings, which is, I'm not trying to do a commercial here, but that's why many of us as leaders stop being part of your in addition to your work, your conferences and things like that, because we talked about how to talk to the A group and the B group and how to get people in your seats and stuff like that. And we're like, man, we want to talk about the world. We want to talk about the church in Charleston, that people were blown up and killed from hate against, sacred people. We want to talk about little kids killing each other in school. Those are the things that, we want to talk about. And Michael said, I'm not really about the, a world that works for everyone. I'm about a consciousness of how we shift that integration, and that self-responsibility model. And I've said years ago, to me, it's not a world that works for everyone. It's a world that works through everyone. Because unless something's happening through you, more than likely it isn't happening.
Well, and I agree with that. I would shift it slightly and say a world that works for all, which was what the original statement was from
Sharif.
From Sharif.
Yeah, and it's all great. It's all beautiful.
And here's the piece where I think the two are really the same thing. It's a matter of perspective. So earlier we were talking about Black Lives Matter, right? And then and there are some people say, well, why do you need another affinity group, right? Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ and the feminist movement, all these things. Well, we need those groups within themselves to be healthy, just like I need my kidney and my liver and my lungs to be healthy. Because if they're not, they will affect every other organ in my body, without doubt. Now there's always a tolerance, but when I can get those entities to be self-contained and be able to speak to any point that come across, my temperature goes up, I'm not eating well, I'm not drinking enough, figure one out, then the attitude of all becomes real clear. Because if the kidney goes out or the liver goes out, you got trouble. I don't care what you do. Your body's not going to detoxify. You're not going to be eliminating things properly. Now you got a problem. And when we can do that from a societal purpose, and everybody can yield when it's time to yield, if the defense and the offense on the team don't know to plan together, I don't care how good your players are, you're not going to win the game. And that's what I see. We have to come together knowing that each one has a part, and it takes all of us. I mean, from the African perspective, it takes a village to raise a child, because if I got to go to work, grandma's sitting at home cooking dinner. She can watch the kids. I can't. So it's an intricate thing, I think, that we're working with. And as the old teaching goes, we have to be metaphysicians. and move through the tapestry of life in that manner. And as you said, when that download comes, when that metaphysical insight hits you, you know exactly when to do and what to do and how to do it if you've done the work.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Folks, if you wonder what you stumbled on, this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network, where we get to take a look at how to use this stuff, this philosophy of New Thought. And we're going to take a real quick break, let you learn just a little bit more about some of the things we do around the network. Let our special guest, Temple Hayes, get a drink of water, and we'll be right back. Stick with us. I just lost our commercial. No, I did not. There it is. Learn a little bit more about what we do around here. We'll be right back. And we're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Rev BRZ, my co-host Rev Z, and our special guest, Temple Hayes, is with us today. And before we dive back into our conversation, I think we got to do a little bit of that fanboy stuff and give Temple a little bit of love. So on your screen right now, you're going to see her website. You can catch this and check this out at templehays.com. I must say, when I first landed on this, I was like, oh, this is a beautiful, beautiful site. And you've got a great photographer, dear one. Love that very much. So tell us a little bit about you and your work and what's going on in your world, and then we'll dive back into our deeper conversation.
Thank you. Well, I'm just like my two brothers here on this call. I have dedicated my life to address issues of our times and weave into the answer being the New Thought teaching. And I've been on the Leadership Council of Association of Global New Thought for, I don't know, 15 plus years now. I've had the good pleasure, I call myself bi-spiritual. And I know I made a mistake one time and said bisexual, and people are going, but what about your wife? I went, oh, that could be confusing. Roger Teal and Ken Gordon had a blast with that, aggravating me. But I call myself bi-spiritual because I've had the good pleasure of being in the unity movement as an ordained unity minister and also as a CSL or Science of Mind minister. So I've had the good pleasure of being related to both of them. And, that's been part of my passion of us collectively coming together to join and to really make a difference. So I created an institute along with some major educators 3 years ago that addresses all of what we're talking about, and it's called ILLI.org. So it's the Institute for Leadership and Lifelong Learning International. You can go to my website. But the point is to address mental health, to address depression, racism, holistic medicine, and all those kind of things that are so necessary. I feel what Alvin Toffler said, that the illiterate of the 21st century are not the people that cannot read or write. They are the people that are unwilling to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Mm.
And that's what we're talking about today. It's not our intention to puff ourselves up or act like we're the authorities of, all the answers of the universe. We're just simply provoking and pushing buttons. To me, if I don't push a button, if people come to hear me talk or hear me here and they go, I don't agree with that, I'm so happy to hear that, because you're thinking. For God's sakes, you're thinking. I didn't come here to be liked or like, and let's make status quo or, whatever. And I just really want to acknowledge you guys with your bravery, your courage to be an enlightened rebel, so that you can address these issues and just speak your heart, because that's all that we're doing. I mean, we were talking about all the things that have happened today according to the selective news of what they have pre-decided sells the most commercials and ads. So we always have that going on in our world, is breaking news, breaking us. We have become again little herded, tested rats of, people. And, we got them now. Now there's going to be a fourth variant. We're going to just get them. And then it's going to be the severe weather of all time. Oh my God. And then if you live in Florida, if you survive all of those missiles and whistles and everything else, a shark is going to come out of the ocean and literally eat you. So, we have that too. We have that part of learning and unlearning and relearning about, just common sense, one aspect of that. But yeah, it's just so fascinating. This is the greatest time we've ever been alive. And I feel like you do, Rev Z, and you, Rev BRZ, this is, it sounds like, a bumper sticker, but this is our time, because we need to grab this time and run with it and speak the truth about these issues that are related to our time. I was so proud of my little 6-year-old goddaughter, because she knew today was 2-2-2-2-2-2, right? And so she wore 2 different socks, 2 different shoes, 2 different bows, 2 different tutus, 2 different shirts, 2 different bands, 2 different everything. And I thought, hallelujah, an original thinker.
My eldest was born on the 22nd. It's of June, but on the 22nd. And so, has made this their own personal sort of holiday as well. And so happy 2-2-2-2-2-2 Tuesday for everybody out there.
And Temple didn't say this, so I'm gonna this is definitely unrehearsed, but I'm gonna put in a plug. She has a book called Being a Difference Maker.
Yes.
And I ordered it because the thing that struck me, and I think that's really what we're asking everyone to do. And I think that's, in a nutshell, what she just said is, we have to all be difference makers, no matter how big or how small. And the thing that captured me about the book, I'm into some Jungian archetypal stuff, and she has these beautiful animals to depict these different ways we can become different makers, and the energy and everything behind it. And that's what I believe, and if you've been on here before and heard me, nature is the best teacher. There is nothing that we cannot find an answer to in nature. And just looking at that and saying, yes, well, I've already ordered it, so I'll have to send you my review.
Well, in all seriousness, I'd love to know what you think. And, I think that's one of the thing, and that's the reason we all found each other and 7.5 billion people while we're here at this time. And, with our consciousness, right, is that we have a passion. I have a passion about just not talking to the choir. I mean, for me, the new thought conversation is when I talk about, 34 years sobriety. To me, part of new thought is when I talk about when you raise your kids to disrespect animals and to kill the bug and to kill the butterfly, it's usually those same kids that then kill everything else because they have no value or no respect for life itself. When you, as a parent, do not model joy and life and energy and belief, then that's what follows you, what follows suit. But I concur with you. And I spoke about this at the Parliament of the World Religions when everybody was all about God so loving and, all that. And then I come out there and I go, but what about all of us like me that are gay? What about all you people that say you have dominion over this freaking planet? Well, you haven't done too good of a job, because that's not what that really means if you really look at it. And how do we explain billions of lives every day in fish and chicken and in cattle that give their lives and never make it to a table? It's pathetic. So, it doesn't take much to rattle my chain. And that's why I don't understand why New Thought doesn't feel like they have enough to do, because they're not on Zoom. There's plenty to do everywhere. Right? Yes. I mean, there's so much to address, but I'm with you, Rev Z. Right. If you don't get the connection and say you love God, and you don't love what God created or she created or creator created or divine mind, I don't really care what you call it, but they don't add up. If you don't embody all of that, like you said, it's like just focusing on your liver and your heart and hoping the rest of you will catch up.
Well, or even, and we have the tendency where it's the liver that's got the pain and the hurt and needs the healing. But we're like, well, yeah, hold on, I'll get to that. I'm working on my kidneys right now. Right. Again, we compartmentalize these things. The intersections are vast. The story of the 4-year-old that got a hold of the gun. Right. We can make it about the gun. We can make it about a mental health issue if that's what's going on. There's a pretty good chance there's something going on there. There's some anger management issue happening if you're that upset at a drive-through, and there's all these various intersections that we can't just look at it from that one lens. We have to say, you're right, there's this issue and there's this issue, and let's remember that 4-year-old boy is now going to be in the system, and he is going, for the most part, his life will be lorded over by others for quite some time that think they know better for him because the parent that was responsible didn't know better for him. And that's a prayer. That's the place where I think New Thought can do its work also, not just in consciousness, but to be there to know that, okay, we're going to pray for that young man and his experience. And maybe that's my place where I can get involved, because I am involved in social services, or I am involved in child welfare in my city or my state, a place where I, as Temple's saying, where I can bring this philosophy to the world. We're not trying to get the world to come to our philosophy. We used to be, come to us, come to us, come to our church, come to my place. Now we've got to be about being this wherever we are, all of us.
And that leads me, last night I was involved in a presentation on historical Black colleges and their history and so forth and so on. And one of the key components that came out several times, and we had some graduates and so forth, is the idea of mentorship, one-on-one mentorship. because there's so many things drawing attention from our youth and from our adults. It doesn't matter. But when we can talk to people one-on-one and get to understand what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish with their life, what are some of the areas that are causing conflict, then I should be able to point myself or to someone else who is in that vernacular that's playing in that arena to serve as a somewhat of a mentor. Now there's no utopias, right? I mean, everybody got their own, as Bill Withers would say, we all got our own confusion. But
Right.
but the ability to work with someone that is in a certain vernacular, is in a ballpark, and help them through the things that even if they haven't happened already, and they may not. But I'd rather be prepared than not be prepared. So that we mentor people in how to be caring to the planet, how to resolve issues without being destructive. That's what, for me, that's having a new thought about how I deal with these things. And when we can begin to do that, I think in addition to all the classes and all the stuff we do at a broader level, we have to start narrowing down and looking at individual lives, whether it's our own or someone else's, and how we can use these principles and action to make it better.
Yeah, and I love what Rev BRZ said a while ago too. That of Black Lives Matter. Well, that's all wonderful, fine and good. But if you don't have an energy as a leader that you have color in your community, or color on your screen, or color in your life, or color on your website, it's like it's glossy words. That's all it is. And and you can be in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, where there aren't any Black people. Well, we excuse you. But in most cities, you have color. And so why is it not there in your community? Why is it just a chat, but not a reality? You know what I mean? And so it's the showing. And yet with New Thought, we say, look at all the systems that are falling. Look at the systems of education. But yet, what do? We turn around and educate future leaders the same way that college does. Let me put you in, listen to Holmes. Let me hear you listen to this one. Let me hear you get data. Let's measure your SAT, see how big your brain is, get you to have a test. And we don't teach them anything about leadership, about real life matter issues like Black Lives Matter, like suicide matters, like, gun violence matters. They go out there just fluffy and puffy because they passed a class. And it doesn't prepare, true leadership. So I don't know if you resonate with that, but we're just still, like both of you are saying, we have the evolution of New Thought that could do better evolving with today's times. And we need to step up.
And Temple, if you don't mind, if you could just, like when we were in the green room, I think you gave a eloquent storyline of how New Thought started from one place during the Depression and then kind of moved forward, which kind of leaves this nice canvas for us to start painting on. If you wouldn't mind sharing that again, that'd be great.
Yeah,
about that whole thing.
Yeah, I really felt like it was the collective of us, and that we were talking about how in the very beginning of the New Thought ways of thinking, it was addressing prosperity. It was addressing depression. Through the depression, I'm not talking mental depression, that would come later, but I'm talking about depression and how through techniques and Napoleon Hill, Think and You Grow Rich, and all the great teachers and speakers and orators that would attract thousands of people that talked about this doesn't have to be your truth. And these are some tools for you to use. And then all of us together were talking about how then we evolved to teaching you how mastery, over your life, right? And now, including of what Myrtle Fillmore did, we're talking about the art of healing and healing of families feeling separated, of the color of your skin, of your sexual choices, of violence, of murder, of being, we need to be healed by the fact that we are owned by media. We are owned by notification, 24-hour news. They own a lot of people. The thinking and the learning and the unlearning has, we have succumbed to. Now what? Oh my gosh, now something else, And so it's in that space that we have the powerful work of the umbrella. And this is what we were all sharing, is about the healing, that it's an umbrella. And Myrtle Fillmore didn't say, oh, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to be negative. There's no such thing as tuberculosis. She said, I have made this great discovery called life. And I'm going to attract what I need to exceed beyond this and to transform. And therefore, I will be healed, as Emma Curtis Hopkins said. Never is a sick person coming before me to be recognized, but a whole person, to be seen. And that's what you're talking about with all the various itises or isms in our world today, that there is a solution, but yet it's our willingness to converse about it, have panels about it, teach courses about it. And you have a lot of great leaders in CSL, like David Alexander, and some real, go get them, Yvette Plunder. There are a few that are out there really, really talking it.
There are a few out there talking it, folks, and we hope that you'll invite your friends back to listen to what we're talking about, because really this is what we want to be talking about. Bringing in guests, bringing in people that are willing to have these conversations and doing the work that it's necessary to demonstrate these conversations. If you know somebody you'd like us to have a conversation with, send us an email, ministertalk@ntmedia.org. If you have a comment or a conversation you'd like us to have, let us know about all of that as well. So I know, I know, Temple, you have another engagement. We've got probably maybe another 10 minutes or so with you before you're going to have to run off, or at least change rooms and get to another meeting. That's the nature of it today, right? You're here for one meeting and you're over here for the next. So before we go, I want to agree. This conversation of the umbrella and we're healing. I'm sensing that it's the healing in these various areas, and I'm been struck through this entire conversation. There's an old phrase about first cause, or the divine, taking on form and abandoning that form in order to take on new form. And I've personally expanded that with the idea of experience as well.
Right.
The oneness that is life is forever taking on form and experience, and abandoning both that form and experience, so we may have new and expanded, more evolutionary, more visionary, I believe, forms and experiences in our lives. As you look at where we are now, what is the healing that's being called forth for humanity, so that we can exponentially increase how this is all happening?
Yeah, well, what you said was absolutely beautiful. I mean, I think about my own life. I had to come to a place to admit that I'm allergic to alcohol. Now, I could have been like a lot of new thoughters and had a lot of groups, because originally I did is I would, walk away from my car in the tree and they would say, there's no such thing. Don't affirm you're an alcoholic. Please don't affirm you're an alcoholic. And I'm like, well, honey, what do you call it? I just wound up in jail. But I was willing to see the form, like you're saying,
Right.
to become formless, to create a new idea of what that could be for me. So it was to exceed beyond the struggle to a new reality, right? But using cause and effect. But I needed to look at the effect that up till now, the form of my mind thinking was creating. And that's what, both of you are saying. I was thinking when Rev Z was talking, if every 5 million plus new thoughters picked one person to mentor, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
one person, if we could start some kind of something where they sign up online, and every new thoughter, even those that are full of themselves and think they don't
Mhm.
have the time or they're too important, um, to mentor a person and do that for 6 months, and then that would
Mm.
be, then we would move to 10 million people, and then those 10 million
Mhm.
would then get one, and
Mhm.
exponentially, there could be this new wave in the consciousness of this planet, would be that. I mean, and we have the tendency to do that in our humanity. Like, God doesn't give us any more than we can handle. We have this tendency to go, well, my gosh, there's so much going on. I don't know where to start. So often those people do nothing. There's so much. I get so overwhelmed. I do nothing. No, 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 no. And that's what you're talking about, Rev Z. As a difference maker, just pick one thing. Just
Yeah.
one thing. And you don't have to go looking far, because it will reveal itself once you agree to be part of someone that is willing to help this world shift its form and what it knows and what it does. So
Right.
yeah, it doesn't have to be hard. It can be just a simple move that makes a change. There's a rumor around here in my community that I've served 18 years. Don't ever tell her that you've hurt a rat, and don't tell her you're calling the exterminator. She's not about all that. And you know what? That's one of my greatest compliments, that somebody would talk about me like that. Because Ernest
Mhm.
Holmes did that. He hauled his German Shepherd up and down the stairs when he could barely do the efforting himself. And
Yeah.
somebody said, "Why don't you put the dog down?" And he said, "Would you put your mother down?"
Mm.
Mm.
We want to step up to what we teach.
Yeah. And
I,
Temple, while you were saying that, through that whole thing, all the points you made, I kept getting this image of a kaleidoscope.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we were kids, we had these kaleidoscopes, and they had the same number of rocks or stones or whatever was in there was what was in there. But as
Right.
you kept turning it, the myriad different beautiful displays kept evolving and kept moving
Right.
and kept revealing. And that's what I hear you saying here now, is that
Mm-hmm.
we have to keep turning the kaleidoscope to know that wherever we're looking at right now, no matter how fixated we may be on it, whether good or bad, there's other things to be discovered. There's other worlds to be explored, if you will, that
Yeah.
keep revealing the greatness and grandeur of it all. And the more we can tap into that, we we automatically become difference makers, because we're looking at the world through a
Absolutely.
different lens.
I,
Absolutely. And I think you and Robert can come up with some way to have this New Thought Media mentoring program, because it could be so simple, and it could just be exponential. Because my teacher in shamanism taught me many years ago, and I never forgot it. If you're telling people something and you're talking to people, they may or may not be integrating any of it. It's when they're telling you
yep.
that that the teacher archetype within them lives. And that's the whole point. And we do a lot of talking at and impressing on our bullet points and our teleprompters. But what about the space of allowing an individual to tell us, so that there is the continuing evolution,
Right.
and that I feel that is where we're being called now. Definitely.
Z, I love you're bringing the kaleidoscope in.
Mhm.
I found a beautiful brass kaleidoscope at Christmas time, at the holiday time, and had to grab it and had nobody to give it to. We did end up a little off in our present count for the kids, so one of the kids got it. But the other key to me in that is you can't go back. Even if you try, you turn that dial and you get, oh, you if you do get infatuated, it's like, oh, that's amazing, but it's never going to stay that way. And as soon as you go forward a little and you get like, oh, I want to go back to what that was, nope, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same as what it was. Our perception, our memory is going to skew the whole thing, and it's going to make it different anyway. So really our choice is always to embrace what comes next, embrace the wonder and the mystery of this is what I get to be doing now or next.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah.
where that I personally, and folks, for those that are listening, right, this is your opportunity to say, okay, how do I want to be a part of this new vision, if you will? What's my next little piece? It doesn't have to be a huge piece,
Yeah.
but you're part of one of those stones in that kaleidoscope. We're all necessary to make the mosaic work.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
and,
that's
and,
where,
and go ahead, Temple.
well, that, I mean, I sound like I'm on a soapbox, but that's where the 24-hour news has just really programmed people to not question their own perception. And
Yeah.
because it's not, we don't have all the information, we don't have all the facts, we only get a small window, and then we start reacting to a reacting of very little information, and then people are fighting and flighting and adding more coffee and all that on top of just a little bit of the information. I mean, when some of us were growing up, as we were laughing, I'm still growing up. And see that you make the claim that you're grown up, so good for you. I need to talk to you, but when we look at that kind of thing, Walter, was it Cronkite or Cronkite?
Yep.
Cronkite.
Okay.
Right.
He would tell us something in the morning, and then he'd stay tuned later because we'll have all the facts then. We don't have that now. We just get this heightened story, scarcity, fear, crazy, and then we don't ever get the information.
Right.
Or they
Right.
don't tell us once when they got it wrong.
No.
Or
Well, no.
Or when it
there's
was
no.
resolved.
And they don't tell you that those people that work in news, they are forced often to take out the real parts of the story that aren't dramatic and crazy. They don't tell you that, but news people will tell you that, and that's why a lot of them are leaving, because they have to. It's made up stuff a
Yep.
lot.
Which is exactly why on Friday nights at 5, folks, we do the good news here on New
Oh,
Thought
good for
Media
you.
Network, a half-hour program of good news stories to help you get into your weekend. So, okay, that was a shameless plug, but we like doing those things around here.
I just want to say what an honor it is, and I thank you for inviting me in your room today and into you guys, your lives, and all the things you stand for. I applaud you, and all your efforts, and we just keep on, keeping on, and I mean, we're just all committed with our passion of
Yeah.
knowing the world was a better place because we live somehow. Yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a poem I learned back when I was in college that goes, I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. I'd rather one walk with me than just to show the way. The eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear. And
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create an example. As you said earlier, we don't have all the answers. We don't know what's coming next, so to speak, but we do know that if we can begin to exemplify the life with all its flaws and ups and downs of what we are striving for, somebody's going to catch fire and join the team, and we're going to keep exponentially growing this idea, growing this way of living and learning, that we can work through any problem and celebrate all joy without any conflict.
Yeah. I love
Hmm.
that. I love that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're so blessed. We hope you'll come back again. And we know you got to run off to your other appointment. So thanks for making time for us, and we'll see you again real soon.
Bless you guys.
Peace.
Keep
Thank
on
you.
keeping on, bros.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, folks, that's Temple Hayes. You're going to see more and more of her around the New Thought Media Network as we go, I am sure. And we want to let you know of a couple of things, right? Z just said it. We can't know what's coming next, but we do often know what just happened. And what just happened before today's show was our dear friends, Reverend Kathy Mastriani and Laura Topper were on, and they did a wonderful interview with Rev.Dr. Peter Weldes. So I encourage you later today, if you didn't catch that show before this one, well, go catch it after this one. And that's the type of thing we've got going on here on New Thought Media Network, expanding programs at all times, new programs coming on the air all times. Things like caring for caregivers on Monday night, and where we get a chance to look at how we care for caregivers, how to live a vibrant life on Thursday afternoons, how to do relationships with Rockin' the Love on midweeks. And here, of course, on New Thought Today, my brother Rev Z and I, we come together every Tuesday to share some of what we're doing here as well. We're going to say thank you real quick to our sponsors and those people that make this possible financially, and then come back with some final thoughts and wrap this up for today. If you would, please join us as we say thank you to our committed and financial givers.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Audrey, thank you for your very generous donation. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
And we're back on New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. Again, a big shout out and thank you to Temple Hayes for being with us today. If you're just catching us and tuning in here at the last minute, well, you'll be able to watch the replay as soon as we're done. And again, we encourage you to go check out Wisdom of the Mystics that aired just previous to this. All right, Z, that's a wild and a very wide-ranging conversation there. What's your big takeaway? What's our big final thought for the week?
Well, each one teach one, each one help one. I mean, we have to get involved with this philosophy. We have to begin to share our ideas, to share our experiences, and to just like the love train, try to get everybody on board to actually living these principles, making mistakes, learning from it, and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Each one reach one. I like that. Each one teach one. It is. I think you're absolutely right. The time of sitting around on our Bibles is over, and now we get to take it into our lives and into our worlds in a more meaningful way. And I believe those of you that are here with us today are exactly the right people to say yes to that in whatever way's calling you. So thank you for being with us today. We're going to be back next week. That'll be March 1st. Z, can you believe it? February is pretty much done already.
I don't even want to think about it.
That
means I got to do my taxes pretty soon.
Yes. And I think we need to make a movement. think we need to start a movement that Black History Month needs to be like a full month.
Yes.
Enough of this short month stuff for you guys, for everybody. Like maybe we'll just but do remember, folks, New Thought Media Network, we have our Black History moments every day. a short well, no, you guys haven't been short, 7 to 9 minutes. But we've got a 5 to 7 minute video for you every day, sharing a bit of Black history and a prayer for racial healing with the ministers and practitioners of New Thought Media Network. So please check that out. It's available on our archives as well. All right, we're going to get out of here, let you get into the rest of your day. Until next time, peace.
Peace.